And now, ladies and gentlemen, from the heart of the Inland Empire, right here in sunny Southern California, it's Robert Cardoza Live, where we talk about politics, money, and you. This is the intersection of business and politics. And now here's your host, Robert Cardoza. And welcome aboard. I am Robert Cardoza. You're listening to Robert Cardoza Live on the street at the intersection of business and politics. And I'm telling you, what a beautiful day it is today. It is at 3:01 p.m. Pacific time. It's currently 79 degrees here in the heart of the Inland Empire in sunny Southern California. Well, it's down from 83 on its way to 57 degrees. I want to tell you, the sky is just the most beautiful blue. It's clear outside. It is just absolutely gorgeous. And you know what? On today's show, we're going to do the same thing we do every Monday through Friday. And we're going to talk about what's in the news, new legislation, the IRS loses. And then we'll do our news segment, the tribute to the late, great Paul Harvey, and the rest of the story. The story today is going to be, hey, hands down. Oh, you're going to love this story, too. You don't want to miss it. And then later on, we're going to have our own Sean LaFave. Sean and I are going to be talking about the human machine on his segment, Geared for Wellness. I love it when Sean's here. He's here every Tuesday and Thursday. And it's sort of like the hour goes by in the blink of an eye. It's just unbelievable. Well, right now, I want to talk to you about what's in the news, and we've abbreviated it so we can give you the top 10 things so you'll know what's going on. You can talk to your friends and neighbors, and they'll know that you know what's going on in the news. And here are the 10 things to know for Thursday, your daily look at late-breaking news, upcoming events, and the stories that are going to be talked about all day today and probably all day tomorrow. God knows, maybe even into the weekend. Trump, though, no truth to groping, kissing claims. The billionaire's rebuttal comes after the New York Times publishes interviews with two women who say that they were touched inappropriately by him. And what could be Haiti's next calamity? Well, cholera appears to be on the rise in the southern part of the island in the wake of deadly Hurricane Matthew. Boy, things weren't bad enough, right? Cholera. I haven't heard about that in a long time. Well, Wells Fargo embattled CEO resigns. John Stump faced congressional hearings and consumer wrath after the bank was found to have opened millions of accounts without customers' permission. Well, you know, it's a shame he had to leave his job, poor guy. He got a $130 million payoff to leave. You don't feel too sorry for him. How about this? Yemen-based rebels suspected in attacks. For the second time this week, 2 missiles are fired at U.S. Navy ship in the Red Sea, but sail harmlessly by. And why mammograms are under fresh scrutiny. A study concludes that a woman is more likely to be diagnosed with a small tumor that is not destined to grow than she is to have a true problem spotted early. And Syrian accused in a violent plot takes down life. The 22-year-old man arrested in a suspected Islamic extremist bomb plot kills himself in a prison cell in Germany, authorities say. And disunity impedes a fight against Assad. Infighting among insurgent groups in Syria is severely hampering an offensive against the city of Hana that activists had hoped would cut key government supply lines. And this is official. Terrorism is ruled out in the plane crash. Instead, the death of a student pilot in the crash of a small plane in Connecticut appears to have been a suicide. And who's finding it hard to move on? Well, nearly 6 months after Prince was found dead in an elevator at his beloved Paisley Park, devoted fans are still in mourning. Wow. And finally, in the National League NLDS, Washington is placing hopes in the ace. The Nationals will hand the ball to Cy Young Award candidate Max Scherzer in the decisive Game 5 against the Los Angeles Dodgers. Wow. Can you imagine? Absolutely. Wow. Well, let's talk about some more in-depth news. Let's talk about Trump lashes his accusers as horrible, horrible liars. Donald Trump heatedly rejected new allegations of sexual assault as pure fiction today, hammering his female accusers as horrible, horrible liars as the already nasty 2016 presidential campaign sank further into charges and countercharges of attacks on women. Campaign foe Hillary Clinton was mostly silent on the issue, but Trump faced a passionate rebuke from First Lady Michelle Obama, who warned that his behavior is not something that we can ignore. After years of working to end this kind of violence and abuse and disrespect, we're hearing these exact same things on the campaign trail. We are drowning in it, Obama declared in battleground New Hampshire, her voice cracking with emotion. We can't expose our children to this any longer, not for another minute, not alone for 4 years. With Election Day less than 4 weeks away, Republican Trump was again forced to defend himself against the allegations of sexual misconduct 5 days after a video surfaced in which he bragged about kissing and groping women without their permission. You know what? You need to be careful about what you say in this world, and this just sort of proves it, doesn't it? Absolutely. Well, you know what? Let's talk about emails. Clinton campaign tried to move back the Illinois primary. Hillary Clinton's campaign tried to move the Illinois presidential primary to a later date, saying a contest held after the Super Tuesday primaries might stop momentum for a moderate Republican candidate, and emphasizing that Clinton and her husband won't forget a political favor emails made public on Thursday on the Thursday show. A November 2014 email hacked from the accounts of Clinton campaign chairman John Podesta was among nearly 2,000 new emails published by the anti-secrecy group WikiLeaks. The email from Clinton's future campaign manager Robbie Mook to Podesta said Obama administration officials should use their connections in the president's home state to try and push back the March 15th Illinois primary by at least a month. Wow. Can you imagine? Use whatever political clout you have, I guess, huh? It's, especially if you don't have to live by the rules that everybody else does. Well, officials say U.S. missiles destroy a radar site in the Yemen coast. U.S. launched Tomahawk cruise missiles destroyed 3 coastal radar sites in Houthi-controlled territory on Yemen's Red Sea coast early today. Officials said a retaliatory action that followed 2 incidents this week in which missiles were fired at U.S. naval ships. The strikes marked the first U.S. strikes targeting the Houthis in Yemen's long-running civil war. The U.S. previously only provided logistical support and refueling to the Saudi-led coalition battling Yemen's Shiite rebels known as Houthis and their allies, including supporters of Yemen's former president Ali Abdullah Saleh. While the U.S. military has been focused on al-Qaeda in Yemen, the Houthis had not been a primary target of American forces until the missile launches from Houthi-controlled territory this week. Wow. You know what? Don't these people know who they're playing with? For Pete's sake, this is not a game that they can win, and that's for sure. Well, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk about something is happening. Bob Dylan wins the Nobel Prize in Literature, and I'll tell you all about it after these brief messages. Don't go away. Got a lot of great show today.
If you want to increase your client base and sales, then consider this, the Relationship Building Network at RBN. Given the current economic conditions and challenges, we all need to work smarter, make smarter decisions, invest our hard-earned dollars where it'll yield the best return for our investment. Many business professionals claim that the most effective networking group in Orange County is RBN. No other networking group or organization can offer what RBN offers. Make every year your best year. Join RBN and start reaping the benefits today. Nearly 3,000 businesses have joined RBN and experienced those benefits. Why join RBN? It's one group. It's one membership. It's no renewals. It's all through Orange County. RBN is a freestyle networking group. No mandatory attendance, no restrictions, no rules, and no penalties. Call them at 949-830-5776 or go to their website at rbninfo.com. That's 949-830-5776. If you've ever dreamed of having your own business to make your life secure, you know Water's Edge Wineries might be just the ticket. In 2004, their founder, Ken Lineberger, created the first winery franchise in California. It was a new concept with all of the functionality of a traditional winery, but without the vineyards. They purchase high-quality grape must from one of the largest winemaking companies in the world. Then they craft each wine carefully and bottle it right at their location. The winery was built to satisfy consumer demand for wine by the bottle and by the glass, but still kept the element of allowing customers to bottle their own custom vintage. Now, they're opening urban wineries across the United States under the brand Water's Edge Wineries. If you've ever dreamed of owning your own winery, it may be in reach right now through Water's Edge Wineries. Just give them a call at 909-468-9463, extension 700. That's Water's Edge Wineries, 909-468-9463. Have you ever found yourself caught between a rock and a hard place? The law offices of Blomberg, Benson & Garrett might be just the answer for you. The attorneys of Blomberg, Benson & Garrett have been serving the Inland Empire since 1989. They're dedicated to the aggressive litigation of civil, criminal, and real estate matters. Over the years, they have recovered tens of millions of dollars for their clients. The firm's practice specializes in litigation of personal injury, accident, slip and fall, real estate, and criminal law cases. The firm provides clients with the care, accuracy, and dedication of experienced attorneys. Blomberg, Benson & Garrett is located at 10300 4th Street, Suite 150 in Rancho Cucamonga, California. They've been providing the Inland Empire residents with outstanding legal services for over 25 years. They look forward to providing you with aggressive legal representation. Call them at 909-945-5000, where you can talk to a person, not a machine. That's 909-945-5000, the law offices of Blomberg, Benson & Garrett. And now let's get back to our show where we talk about politics, money, and you.
And I am Robert Cardoza. You're listening to Robert Cardoza live on the street at the intersection of business and politics. And we're talking news, something's happening. Bob Dylan wins the Nobel Prize in Literature. Bob Dylan, Nobel laureate, in the book world's equivalent of a Supreme Court ruling. The Nobel judges declared today that Dylan is not just a rock star, but a poet of the very highest order. Dylan, 75 years old, becomes the first musician in the 115-year history of the Nobel to win the prize in literature. He was honored for having created new poetic expressions within the great American song tradition. It is the ultimate ascension for the man who set off a lasting debate over whether lyrics, especially rock lyrics, can be regarded as art. Dylan, who gave the world Like a Rolling Stone, Blowing in the Wind, and dozens of other standards, now finds himself on a list that includes Samuel Beckett, Toni Morrison, and T.S. Eliot, whom Dylan referred to in his epic song, Desolation Row. Congratulations to one of my favorite poets, Bob Dylan, on a well-deserved Nobel, tweeted President Barack Obama, who in 2012 presented the singer-songwriter with the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Dylan rarely gives interviews, and a representative said the star had no immediate comment. He is on a tour and was scheduled to play in Las Vegas on Thursday night. Well, congratulations, Bob Dylan. You certainly deserve this award, and that's for sure. Well, many Hurricane Matthew victims don't have flood insurance. Waist-deep flood waters from Hurricane Matthew coursed down the street and seeped under Lori Gailmore's door, swamping the carpets and furniture as she and her three sons retreated upstairs, where they stayed until firefighters arrived by boat. Gailmore and her neighbors in Pooler, a community about 35 miles inland from the evacuated Georgia coast, were deluged not by seawater driven ashore by the hurricane, but by rain and runoff that overwhelmed a drainage ditch at the end of their cul-de-sac. Everybody said, "You're not in a floodplain. You don't need flood insurance," Gailmore recalled on Wednesday as her husband and sons threw out soggy furniture, waterlogged books, towels and blankets, and wet chunks of drywall. And flood insurance is expensive. Who wants to pay that? Well, Gilmore's story is all too common. Many Americans don't have flood insurance, some because they don't want to pay for it, some because they don't see the need for it. Well, I guess this kind of changes everybody's mind, doesn't it? Sure it does. Well, you know what? Let's talk about Nigeria. Says 21 abducted Chibok schoolgirls are freed in a swap. 21 of the Chibok schoolgirls kidnapped by Boko Haram more than 2 years ago were freed today in a swap for detained leaders of the Islamic extremist group. The first released since nearly 300 girls were taken captive in a case that provoked international outrage. The freed girls, some carrying babies, were released before dawn and placed in the custody of the Department of State Services, Nigeria's secret intelligence agency. In photos released by the government, the former captives, most now young women, appeared gaunt and exhausted. The government wants the girls to have some rest, said presidential spokesman Garba Shehu, adding that all of them are very tired. Some 197 captives remain missing, though some reportedly have died. We are extremely delighted and grateful, said the Bring Back Our Girls movement, which campaigned in Nigeria and internationally for the release of the girls, most of whom were teenagers when they were seized in April of 2014 from their school in the northeastern town of Chibok. Wow. You know what? I'm happy for those girls, and I'm sad for the ones that are still there. Just all you can really say about that. Well, let's talk about cops. Man who shot 2 Boston officers didn't have a gun license. A man who shot 2 police officers responding to a report of domestic disturbance was armed with a tactical shotgun and wearing body armor, but didn't have a gun license, authorities said today. The officers were responding to a 911 call from a home in the East Boston neighborhood at about 11 p.m. Wednesday about 33-year-old Kirk Figueroa threatening his roommate with a knife, Commissioner William Evans said. 2 officers entered the home and were shot by Figueroa, who was then shot and killed by other officers, Evans said. Figueroa was not licensed to have a gun in Massachusetts, police said. The injured officers were identified as Richard Santolo, a 27-year veteran, and Matt Morris, a 12-year veteran. Both underwent surgery and were in critical condition, but they are recovering, Evans said. You know, what the heck is going on in this country? It's just, I don't even know what to say anymore. I just don't know what to say anymore. Well, you know what? Let's talk about Florida's ID's new Miami neighborhood as Zika zone. Health officials announced today a new Zika zone in Miami, a setback less than a month after declaring the nearly Wynwood neighborhood cleared of the virus following aggressive mosquito spraying. 5 people have been infected with Zika in a 1 square mile area of the city just north of Little Haiti neighborhood and about 3 miles north of Wynwood, according to a statement released today by Governor Rick Scott's office. It is the 3rd Miami area neighborhood identified where mosquitoes have transmitted the virus to people. After Wynwood and a touristy section of Miami Beach, which is still considered an active transmission zone, Wynwood was declared free of the virus after 45 days went by without any new infections. These are the first such areas of transmission confirmed by the continental United States, following major outbreaks in Latin America of the disease, which can cause major birth defects, including stunted heads. Well, let's get on to something a little more pleasant. Don't go away. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the IRS loses. Our first case, though, is a case where the IRS conceded, and they said that a charity can receive an IRA from an estate. I'll tell you all about that after these brief messages. Don't go away, folks. Lots of good stuff.
Isn't it time to shine the spotlight on your expertise? The Interview, starring you. Here's your chance to capture 5 minutes of fame with The Interview. This isn't just any interview. This is your opportunity to showcase your expertise and position yourself as a trusted expert in a one-on-one video interview hosted by Robert Cardoza, host of the nationally syndicated show Robert Cardoza Live and powered by AHA Studios. What is it? A professionally recorded video for your use. Robert Cardoza interviews you on the set where he records his show. Professional interview showcases your expertise and value, shot in a state-of-the-art studio. And what's in it for you? Gain credibility as an expert, earn the trust of your target market, educate in a way that intrigues your audience, gain a powerful marketing tool that offers dozens of uses, website, video sharing sites, social media, email, DVDs, direct mail, lobby video, resumes, profile building, all that kind of stuff. Association with the nationally syndicated celebrity. That's right. And let's talk about AHA Studios. AHA is a strategic marketing firm that leverages the powerful and visual persuasion to help your business create powerful messages that connect with your target market. AHA ventures way beyond strategy, delivering the marketing collateral you need to start driving a new business through your doors. AHA has a full-service, in-house, state-of-the-art production studio to bring your messages to life using video. Discover how to make the interview work for you. Call 949-831-2222. That's 949-831-2222. AHA Image Studios Incorporated. Dr. Stephen Tidwell, Gentle Family Dentistry in a caring, personalized environment. Here at Dr. Tidwell's office, we are dedicated to helping you keep your teeth healthy. We are a state-of-the-art dental practice that still believes in traditional values, such as excellent customer service and individual attention. We have a special welcoming offer for you for just $39, a complete exam, personal consultation, professional cleaning, and all necessary x-rays. That's a $266 value for $39. Dr. Tidwell has 2 convenient locations and experienced staff to provide you with professional care and personal attention that you deserve. Call today. Don't delay. A great smile another day. Call 909-944-7308. That's 909-944-7308 for Rancho Cucamonga or San Bernardino. Joel Saltzman is Dr. Wireless. He has turned his considerable expertise into consumer credit risk and wireless security into a highly specialized independent web-based consulting enterprise targeting consumer credit risk analysis and wireless transactional security and monitoring. He works as a wireless analyst, veteran independent agent, and consumer liaison for most wireless telecom carriers and equipment manufacturers. For more than 20 years, corporate and private clients and media audiences have counted on his unvarnished advice while weighing the technology, performance, and cost differences between Sprint, Nextel, AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile. Joel specializes in setting up mobile wireless hotspots to be used for disaster preparedness, business continuity, and mobile wireless merchant processing solutions. Call Dr. Wireless at 310-400-4900 or go to his webpage at drwireless.com. Again, call 310-400-4900 or his webpage at drwireless.com. You'll be glad you did. And now, back to our show.
The story you are about to see is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
And I am Robert Cardoza. You're listening to Robert Cardoza Live on the Street at the intersection of business and politics. We're at 3:23 p.m. Pacific time. It's currently 80 degrees here in the heart of the Inland Empire in sunny Southern California. Well, that's down from 81 on its way to 57. But if you're listening to us on our globally syndicated network and you're in New York City, well, it's 63 degrees and it's mostly cloudy. And if you're in Chicago, Illinois, it's 57 degrees and it's partly cloudy. But right now, we're going to talk about the IRS loses. Sends chills up and down your spine. At least it does mine. Makes me happy. Let's talk about the first case here. The IRS conceded, and you know that they only concede if they're pretty sure they can't prevail in tax court. That's what's happening here. In this case, a charity absolutely can receive an IRA from an estate. You know, an individual died owning an IRA that had his estate as its beneficiary. His will also named the charity as a residual beneficiary of the estate. And the estate's executor then sought to transfer the IRA to the charity to satisfy its claim as a beneficiary. So here's the IRS ruling. The transfer to meet the terms of the will is permitted with no income tax due to the estate, even though ownership transfers of IRAs generally are not permitted. Now, planning point here, the transfer of the IRA to the charity saves an income tax bill. Had the IRA been paid to the estate and the charity received other assets, the full IRA payout would have been subject to income tax. So you know what? Always seek the advice of a licensed professional. It's going to save you more money than it ever cost you. How about this? The IRS loses. A rejected settlement is received inadequate review. Here's the deal. A retired couple who owed back taxes made an offer in compromise, or OIC, that the IRS rejected. Then they made another offer in compromise. Now, the IRS rejected that too. So they went to tax court, and here's the decision of the court. The IRS settlement officer rejected the second offer in compromise without considering supporting documents showing that the husband was fully disabled. The wife suffered from heart disease and diabetes. They had an adult dependent child, and they had very limited income. Instead, he simply accepted a revenue officer's unsupported note in the file saying that they could pay the tax bill. This is inadequate review, and it entitles the couple to an absolute hearing. Now, how ridiculous, but that's the way they work. How about this? The IRS loses. A taxpayer may be anonymous in tax court. You know, an individual who filed a case in tax court sought permission to remain anonymous and asked for all court records to be sealed. Why? He had close relatives in a foreign country where kidnapping is actually common, and one had already been kidnapped and held for ransom. He feared that if his finances were published by the court, his family would face a greater risk of kidnapping. The IRS objected that a prior case brought by an individual in another court had not been sealed, so sealing the records here was futile. This is what the tax court said. No court rule permits anonymous proceedings, but the court will use its discretion to do so here due to the good reason, and will seal the records as well. That's the way it should be. Well, here's the last case we're going to do. IRS loses. Informal claims save the chance for a refund. Now, an estate at first overpaid its estimated tax bill, then filed a return claiming a large refund. But the IRS summarily rejected the refund because the estate's return was filed more than 3 years after the due date. Now, here's the estate's objection. It had informally contacted the IRS several times, saying that it expected a large refund, but had a delay filing because of 4 more deaths in the family. And an IRS agent had responded by sending a card saying that she would wait for the return until a date after it was actually filed. Now, this is what the court said. A jury could find that the contacts were informal refund claims. That extended the refund deadline. So the estate is entitled to a jury trial. You know, doesn't it just make sense? And why wouldn't it just make sense anyway? Well, you've heard me talk about being a fly on the wall when the IRS is doing things. That's where we're at right now with this segment we call Inside the IRS, very much like the Twilight Zone. Yeah, here we are. We're inside the IRS, and these are not tax court cases, but these are things that the IRS has done or is going to do or is thinking about that actually sets a precedence. And if you know about them, you can kind of plan which way to go. In this first case, what should you do when the IRS sends you a letter telling you to call? You know, sometimes it's not in your best interest to call the IRS as soon as you receive such a letter. Let me give you an example. Let's see here. Let's just say that you owe the IRS money and you can't pay that money in full, but you will be able to pay the amount owed during the next 12 months. If you call the IRS, it's going to ask you to complete a financial statement listing all of your assets. Suppose that you have a certificate of deposit or a brokerage account. Well, the IRS is going to then require you to break the CD or sell the securities in that brokerage account before it agrees to enter into an installment payment arrangement. So, you know, here's the deal. There's a better strategy. Don't call the IRS. Instead, Send in monthly payments. By the time someone from the IRS knocks on your door or places a levy on your bank account, a good portion of the debt will have already been paid. At that point, you can generally work out a time period, about 3 months or so, to pay off the balance of your debt without having to submit a detailed financial statement. Now, of course, you need to talk to your tax advisor about your specific situation, but as a matter of fact, you should always talk to a licensed professional. This is not something you want to do on your own. Well, you ever think about getting a reward? Well, they're available from the IRS. Here's how to get a reward from the IRS. The IRS is getting better about rewarding tax informants, but the information that you provide must still be specific if you're going to get that reward. Now, general information that the IRS could easily figure out itself doesn't usually warrant a reward. For instance, letting the IRS know that your neighbor lives in a newly renovated home and that he probably does not report all of his income just is not going to get you a reward. The best bet here is provide the IRS with specific information about how the scheme to evade taxes works and where the money is going to be buried. But I'll give you a better idea. Don't be that greedy. Leave your neighbor alone. You don't know how upset they're going to be with you, and how about if they turn the tables on you? You know what? Just leave them alone. If they're doing something bad, they'll get caught up with. They don't need you to do it, and you don't want to put yourself in any kind of jeopardy. Now, do not go away. We're going to go on a short break. When we come back, we're going to be with my good buddy, Sean LaFave. We're going to be talking about the human machine on his segment, Geared for Wellness. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
If you want to increase your client base and sales, then consider this, the Relationship Building Network at RBN. Given the current economic conditions and challenges, we all need to work smarter, make smarter decisions, invest our hard-earned dollars where it'll yield the best return for our investment. Many business professionals claim that the most effective networking group in Orange County is RBN. No other networking group or organization can offer what RBN offers. Make every year your best year. Join RBN and start reaping the benefits today. Nearly 3,000 businesses have joined RBN and experienced those benefits. Why join RBN? It's one group. It's one membership. It's no renewals. It's all through Orange County. RBN is a freestyle networking group. No mandatory attendance, no restrictions, no rules, and no penalties. Call them at 949-830-5776 or go to their website at rbninfo.com. That's 949-830-5776. If you've ever dreamed of having your own business to make your life secure, Water's Edge Wineries might be just the ticket. In 2004, their founder, Ken Lineberger, created the first winery franchise in California. It was a new concept with all of the functionality of a traditional winery, but without the vineyards. They purchased high-quality grape must from one of the largest winemaking companies in the world. Then they craft each wine carefully and bottle it right at their location. The winery was built to satisfy consumer demand for wine by the bottle and by the glass, but still kept the element of allowing customers to bottle their own custom vintage. Now, they're opening urban wineries across the United States under the brand Water's Edge Wineries. If you've ever dreamed of owning your own winery, it may be in reach right now through Water's Edge Wineries. Just give them a call at 909-468-9463, extension 700. That's Water's Edge Wineries, 909-468-9463. Have you ever found yourself caught between a rock and a hard place? The law offices of Blomberg, Benson, & Garrett might be just the answer for you. The attorneys of Blomberg, Benson, & Garrett have been serving the Inland Empire since 1989. They're dedicated to the aggressive litigation of civil, criminal, and real estate matters. Over the years, they have recovered tens of millions of dollars for their clients. The firm's practice specializes in litigation of personal injury, accident, slip and fall, real estate, and criminal law cases. The firm provides clients with the care, accuracy, and dedication of experienced attorneys. Blomberg, Benson, & Garrett is located at 10300 4th Street, Suite 150 in Rancho Cucamonga, California. They've been providing the Inland Empire residents with outstanding legal services for over 25 years. They look forward to providing you with aggressive legal representation. Call them at 909-945-5000, where you can talk to a person, not a machine. That's 909-945-5000, the law offices of Blomberg, Benson, & Garrett. And now let's get back to our show where we talk about politics, money, and you. And now, ladies and gentlemen, coming to you from his personal meditation lounge in Orange County, California, a professional dedicated to conquering many chronic conditions from autism to weight loss and everything in between. The nationally recognized wellness coach, consultant, and lecturer Sean Lefebvre in his Geared for Wellness Corner.
And I am Robert Cardoza. You're listening to Robert Cardoza live on the street at the intersection of business and politics. We're at 3:34 p.m. Pacific time. It's currently 80 degrees here in the heart of the Inland Empire in sunny Southern California. Well, that's down from 81, which is not much of a difference, but it's on its way to 57 degrees. And if you're listening to us on our globally syndicated network and you're in Paris, France, well, it's 48 degrees and it's mostly cloudy. And if you're in Rome, Italy, it's 73 degrees and it is clear. And in both cases, it's already 12:31 a.m. That's 35 minutes after midnight, and that's tomorrow morning. But I'll tell you what, the guy that's right on the money every time, the guy that I just actually, I can't hardly wait for him to be on the air with me, and that's every Tuesday and every Thursday, our own Sean Lefebvre in his Geared for Wellness Corner. Hey, Sean, how you doing, buddy?
Good, Robert. How are you, sir?
I am terrific, fantastic, fabulous, absolutely magnificent. I gotta tell you, doesn't get any better. I went for my walk. The sky is so blue, the air is crisp. It's not hot and sweaty or muggy like it would be in Wichita, anything like that. You know.
Man, I need to be hanging out with you more often. That stuff sounds contagious.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're in Irvine. That's God's country. It's got to be fantastic, right?
Well, actually, right now, I'm actually in Newport Beach. I'm not far from there. In fact, I'm within probably, I could walk to the ocean in a matter of 1 minute tops.
Wow. Boy. Yeah. So are you sitting on the porch with a cocktail in your hand and a pretty girl and a pretty girl on your lap?
Exactly. That's exactly.
Sally's listening. Just in case just in case you were wondering, she's probably listening.
She's heard me say worse. She's rolling her eyes at what she's doing.
Yeah. Hey, you got big plans for the week?
We're both full of it.
Yeah, you got big plans for the weekend?
No, not really. I don't have anything super planned. I'll probably end up working. I got some time on my hands. I think I'm going to a concert tomorrow night.
Who are you going to see?
There's a band called Wild Child, and they are again what they call them, a band that pretends to be another band, but they do the music by the Doors. Mm-hmm. And they're really good. I like the Doors. I listened to the Doors a lot when I was growing up, and they're a great band. But a friend of mine actually has a band called the Shenanigans Band, and they're a cover band, and they do, it's very appropriate too. And they do a lot of covers and rock and country and stuff. And so they're going to be opening up for this Wild Child band at a place. Matter of fact, you may know it. It's in San Juan Capistrano called the Coach House.
Oh yeah.
That Coach House is kind of a one of those icon places. It's been around for
ever.
60 years or something. Forever. Yeah, they've been around for as long as fun's been around in Southern Orange County. So we're going to. It's funny because you go in there, and I'm pretty sure they have not changed the decor since the day it was built. I mean, you walk in, it's picnic bench style seating, and the food you get is it's chicken fried steak and hamburgers and. Hey
Sean, if you've got a winning formula, why change it?
Yeah, and the place is packed every single weekend.
Yeah, why change it? If I was the owner, I wouldn't be thinking about changing it.
Oh no, absolutely not. Yeah, I mean they still have literally those big ventilation fans in the ceiling, that pull the air out. And, it's just like you could tell, like they have not updated the decor in that place. I'm saying seriously for at least 50, 60 years.
Well, that's that's part of the mystique, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's part of why people love it.
Yeah,
it definitely draws. It definitely doesn't draw the younger crowd, mm-hmm. but it's still got enough of that nostalgia that it draws the middle-aged crowd and older in droves. Like I said, I've been there a handful of times, and every single time it is packed to the gills. I mean, it's just unbelievable. You're shoulder to shoulder with people, but it's a lot of fun. It's good concerts.
So you know what? And you know what? Are you going with friends?
Yeah,
Or you meet? Oh, okay. You're going to have a great time. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah. It is.
Hey, listen.
So last night was a big milestone.
Milestone.
Victor,
milestone.
For a mile. It was not a mild one. A milestone. My son turned 21 yesterday.
Oh, so, really?
Yeah. So we went out, and I had his first. He's never, obviously he grew up. It's legal too, by the way, to drink, for children to drink at home with their parents. It's absolutely perfectly legal. And so, he grew up drinking wine, and he drank, whatever he wanted. As a matter of fact, when he was a teenager in high school, I told him, I'm like, Victor, there's stuff in the fridge. If you want something to drink, just grab one. And, the only two rules I have is don't ever give it to your friends. And once he got his driver's license, if you've had even a half of a drink, if you've had a sip, you don't drive anywhere for the night. You're done.
Good for you.
Those were the only two rules I had. But if you want to drink at home, so alcohol is not a big appeal to him. I mean, he likes it. Don't get me wrong, but he doesn't go crazy over it. And so, but we did go out last night, and so I had his first. He's never had a drink. He's never snuck into a bar and had a drink. He's just got too much of a baby face. There's no way he can get away with it. He does. At
16 years old, I used to go into this cocktail lounge, and they would, and I would drive some distance to go there because they knew me, right? But they never carded me ever, and so I'd walk in and I could get a cocktail, and there was never any question about how old I was. And I was 16 years old, for God's sakes, and that's when you couldn't even walk into one of those places unless you were 21. But you start to get what's the word I want to use? Complacent about these things. But you know what? In my whole life, I don't know about you, Sean, but in my whole life, I have never been carded. Ever, other than when a cop would stop me because of speeding or some infraction. If you consider just giving your driver's license to him, being carded, that's one thing. But in a bar,
hopefully you're not holding a cocktail when the cop asks for your driver's license.
Well, I could tell you some stories anyway. But I'm not going to. The story I am going to tell you, though, I found a little interesting. I saw, and before we get into the human machine, this was in today's news. It says, why mammograms are under fresh scrutiny. It says, a study concludes that a woman is more likely to be diagnosed with a small tumor that is not destined to grow than she is to have a true problem spotted by a mammogram. This is something that women have been forced to do for ages. It's painful. It's demeaning for them. And now all of a sudden, after all of these years, they've decided that it's really not effective.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Everything I've read on it, and I've been reading on this for, I don't know, at least 2 or 3 years now, maybe more. I can't even remember how long. And that's exactly what they're saying, is they're going, mammograms, they're expensive. Like you said, they're demeaning. They're embarrassing, they're no fun, they're painful, and the truth of the matter is they have made zero difference. You'll get a lot of women, and you try to argue with people about that, especially women who say, well, I was diagnosed with cancer, and it saved my life. Well, that's what your doctor told you, and that might possibly be. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And, it might be, that might possibly be the case, but in the vast majority of cases, they say it was a tumor that may not have even been malignant. It could have still been benign, or it was so small that if we had never screened for it, it would have just gone away on its own. And what they're finding is we're getting really, really good at early detection, but what we've made zero impact on is the amount of people who are dying from cancer. Yeah. We're still getting just as many people dying from cancer, just as many people are getting late stage cancer. And what they're saying is, that this stuff is not really effective as a cure or as a way of saving people's lives. It's just a matter of we're finding cancers that are small, and a lot of times if we had just left them alone, the body would have taken care of them.
Well, you know what? We keep going back to this same recurring subject that you and I have over and over and over again, and that's the problem that medical science has. They keep treating the symptoms instead of the causes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's exactly it. They're looking for more and more ways to treat the symptoms, and they're saying, matter of fact, they're what they've even come out and said was they're women, men as well, but of course with breast cancer, women, who are receiving chemo and radiation that they didn't need. And in some cases, they're saying, you know what, the chemo and the radiation are killing the women who would have lived if they would have never gotten it. And
isn't this
so actually, this is actually maybe doing more harm than it's certainly not doing any real good, but it may actually be doing some significant harm.
You know what? And this is the perfect transition to get into our subject for today, which is the human machine, right?
Right.
You know, it just boggles my mind. You know, you and I have had so many conversations where you have said that, you know what, if they would stop interfering with the functions of the body would heal itself. In most cases.
And that, in the vast 95% of the cases, the vast majority of cases, the body would heal itself if you would stop. If you would get out of your own way, if you would stop doing things that interfere with that process. And of course, chemo and radiation alone, they know that certain people are going to die from chemo and radiation. And if you're diagnosing someone who would have otherwise lived, you just have to now admit that we're killing people.
Well, I mean, when they do chemo and radiation, aren't they destroying your immune system?
Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing. Yeah, they're destroying your immune system. That's exactly what they're doing. And it's painful, and it makes you nauseous, and your hair falls out, and then on, and it burns. From what I understand, it actually physically burns. And, I obviously have been very fortunate. I've never had to go through it. I've never actually personally been close to anyone who's had to go through it, which is, considering the amount of people that have gone through it, it's pretty amazing.
Well, unfortunately,
I have no family members.
Unfortunately, I've seen more than my share of that, and it's not a pleasant sight.
Yeah, and you know what? I will say I had an uncle that died, but I just wasn't there during that time. But he died of cancer. But he was a guy who he drank excessively for decades. I mean, I'm talking like a quart of whiskey or more a day for decades. He was a chain smoker. He smoked 2 packs of cigarettes a day, but he still lived to be like 70 years old or 70-something years old, and finally died of cancer. And from what I understand, it was he wilted away pretty bad, and I wasn't there for it. But so I mean, I guess I do know someone, but I've never watched someone go through it.
Yeah, I have. I've watched people go through. I've watched smokers go through emphysema and lung cancer. I've watched people who have had pancreatic cancer and different cancers and brain tumors. I've seen my share of this kind of horrible end to someone's life, and I've seen doctors prolong. This is going to sound insensitive to me, but I've seen doctors prolong the suffering. Where I can tell you, my dad said to me, my dad had colon cancer. Died from it a number of years ago. And he said to me, he said, Bob, if I'd have known what the diminished quality of my life was going to be as a result of the surgery and the medications and things that doctors have put me on, I'd have never done it. It wasn't worth the extra year that it bought me.
Right. And I've heard that from a lot of people. And I know people who say the same thing that I would say is, if they told me for sure 100% you're going to die, there's nothing you can do about it. First, I wouldn't believe them, but let's say they were right. And they said, but we could give you 6 months to a year. I would still go, you know what, I don't want to go through that, because the stuff it diminishes the quality of your life. It just robs you of the joy of life, because first of all, you got to go through the procedure and it wears you out. You're tired all the time. You're in pain, on and on. And it's just a horrible way to have to live. And I know that there are people out there who would argue with me to the end of the earth, saying that it saved, their life or their wife's life or, kids or dad or whatever. And that may very well be the case. But I think for the most part, it's, like you were saying, this is a segue into understanding the, how the human body works. If you really truly understand how the human body works, you would understand that there certainly is a better way. It's just most people are terrified of the thought, what if it doesn't work, and what do I do, because they believe so much, even though we know that there's a massive fail rate. Everyone who goes through, well, not everyone, I guess there are some people who go on and live a full life, but the vast majority of people, all they do is they get an extended life. It's pretty rare that someone goes into complete remission.
Well, you're always going to see some exceptions to the rule, I'm guessing.
Yeah,
it would It would be interesting, though, Sean, to know the difference. Is there a success rate that's different for those practitioners that practice holistic medicine as opposed to those practitioners that practice medical science?
Yeah, I bet it would be hard to find those statistics. Because a lot of people who go the natural route, they don't just work with one practitioner. They don't go, okay, you're going to be my doctor. What do I do? Mm-hmm. A lot of them do a lot of self-study. They do it on their own. I wouldn't go to I have friends that I would go to, that I know in the healthcare practitioner world, but I would never become a statistic. Let's say something did happen. Let's say I did wake up one day and I had cancer. Like I've said this before, what I would do is I would make sure my gut was right. I would I'd go live somewhere where the air was clean and I wasn't deep breathing in toxins and pollution every day. I would eat clean organic food. I would do all the things that my body needed. I would completely cut out anything in my body that was either a sugar or could be converted into sugar. Because we've talked about that on the show before too. Is the cancer is there because it feeds off of sugar, and there are those who believe that cancer is a defense mechanism that your body is really trying to actually kill off the excessive amounts of sugar in the body. That it has no way. There's so much sugar, you would go into such a state of inflammatory response. The insulin can never keep up. You would go into a complete insulin crash and you would die of diabetes. And so the cancer is saying, well, you know what, we can give you cancer. It's going to kill you too, but it won't kill you as fast as you being overloaded with sugar.
Well, you talked about diabetes, and so I've got a question, and that is that for a person who's diagnosed with diabetes and they have to go on insulin, and it's because they're obese or whatever that triggers it, I suppose. I'm not sure, or they eat too much sugar or whatever they're doing, and is there a road back holistically from that, or are you then sentenced to use insulin for the rest of your life?
Yeah, as long as there's it used to be they kind of change their mind from time to time, but it used to be you had type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes, and type 1 was where basically your pancreas no longer functioned. And for those people, there's really that's a very small percentage of people who have diabetes, and there's really no coming back from that. You're going to be dependent on insulin. I do know one doctor who said he's been able to get people through herbal supplements and through seriously controlling what they eat, that he's been able to get people with type 1 diabetes to where they didn't even need insulin. And that would take a person with very, very strict disciplinary
right, measures. Because he's going to replace with the diet what the shot of insulin provides, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, you're basically removing sugar from the diet because you can't handle it. Mm-hmm. So that's type 1 diabetes. So for that one, there's no coming back. And then type 2 diabetes, which eventually became adult onset diabetes. Actually, it was originally called adult onset diabetes, but now so many kids get it that they call it type 2 diabetes, and that's where you're diabetic, but your pancreas still functions, but it doesn't function at a full level, and you're now become what they call insulin resistant. Your body still produces insulin, but insulin is a hormone, and we have cell receptors that are supposed to take in that insulin. Well, our body is unable to utilize the insulin that's available to us. That's what's called insulin resistance, and at that point now, your body can't process sugar, and so your sugar levels rise, and your insulin levels continue to rise, and you go into this chronic state of inflammation. And what they do, amazingly enough, is they actually give you, there's other drugs they give you too, but they do actually give those people insulin. If you flood enough insulin into the body, you're eventually going to drive down the sugar. But the problem is it's the way you can kind of relate that to is the mom who's dealing with her kids, and if they do something wrong when they're younger, for a while there, you can just be kind of stern with them, and then they kind of learn to tone you out, and so you got to get a little bit louder, and then you got to yell at them to get their attention, mm-hmm. and then you're screaming, and so eventually even the screaming, they're going to learn to tone that out, and that's what happens with giving people synthetic
So I think I've got a grasp of the type 1 diabetes, but the person that has that type 2, the onset diabetes, that's just barely getting over the threshold. Is that one that can be cured? I mean, obviously, if you can, with a diet, are you always going to be with onset diabetes, or will your pancreas actually repair itself?
Yeah, you can overcome it completely, 100%, turn it around. And of course, initially it's through strict diet, and it's through removing the response, insulin response. You stop eating sugar, and then the body stops producing insulin. And then what happens is, because when you're so chronically inflamed, you've got all that sugar and even that insulin is not being used. You got this overactive cytokine response. The cytokines are agents that come around and they build cells and repair cells and tear them down and on and on. And but when you're in a state of chronic cellular inflammation, those cytokines are always working. It actually creates perpetual inflammation. And so what happens is you get rid of the sugar, you give the body other things that it needs. They call them protectants or I can't think of the other word. Starts with an S. Anyway, it'll come back to me. But anyway, the body needs these to drive down the inflammation. Inflammation is one of those things that it goes through a cycle, and it has to go through a cycle. And it's when it gets up and it stays there that it becomes a chronic problem. But when inflammation goes up, and then it resolves, that's the word I was looking for. You get these resolvents to come in and resolve the inflammation response and bring it down, and the body can start functioning again. And what happens is, the membrane around the cell, where all the cell receptors are, that inflammation is driven down. Now that cell membrane can repair itself, so the receptors that hear insulin, now they can start working again. You can drive glucose or sugar back into the cell and burn it as energy.
So when we talk about the human machine, just like any other machine, you've got to put fuel in it for the thing to run, right? And if you put gasoline into a diesel engine, it's going to blow up. So I'm guessing that the human body is very similar. If you put the wrong kind of fuel in, it's just not good for it.
Right, exactly. And the way to look at sugar, there's only two kinds of fuel that we can burn in our cells to give us energy. And they both create ATP, in the cell to give us the energy. And of course, one is sugar or glucose, and the other one is fat. And if you take this is why
30 seconds. 30 seconds, Sean, before we have to take a break.
30 seconds. Okay. Well, when you can't burn fat, you have to burn sugar, and sugar burns very, very dirty. So you want to make fat your primary source of energy. Sugar is something that you want when you're being chased by a saber-toothed tiger, or when you've got to run away from the cops, or whatever.
Fat would be protein and carbohydrate.
Well, fat is just fats. I mean, olive oil, avocados, nuts and seeds, all the good fats that goes like that big white strip on your steak.
Gotcha.
All that is fat. Fat is a very clean burning energy, so it doesn't produce in fact, it actually drives down inflammation, where burning sugar creates inflammation. And we can continue on with that when we come back from our commercial break.
Okay, we're talking to Sean LaFave in his Geared for Wellness Corner. We're talking about the human machine. It's just absolutely unbelievable what your body can do for itself if you just give it a chance. We'll be right back with Sean after these brief messages. Do not go away.
If you want to increase your client base and sales, then consider this, the Relationship Building Network at RBN. Given the current economic conditions and challenges, we all need to work smarter, make smarter decisions, invest our hard-earned dollars where it'll yield the best return for our investment. Many business professionals claim that the most effective networking group in Orange County is RBN. No other networking group or organization can offer what RBN offers. Make every year your best year. Join RBN and start reaping the benefits today. Nearly 3,000 businesses have joined RBN and experienced those benefits. Why join RBN? It's one group. It's one membership. It's no renewals. It's all through Orange County. RBN is a freestyle networking group. No mandatory attendance, no restrictions, no rules, and no penalties. Call them at 949-830-5776 or go to their website at rbninfo.com. That's 949-830-5776. If you've ever dreamed of having your own business to make your life secure, Water's Edge Wineries might be just the ticket. In 2004, their founder, Ken Lineberger, created the first winery franchise in California. It was a new concept with all of the functionality of a traditional winery, but without the vineyards. They purchase high-quality grape must from one of the largest winemaking companies in the world. Then they craft each wine carefully and bottle it right at their location. The winery was built to satisfy consumer demand for wine by the bottle and by the glass, but still kept the element of allowing customers to bottle their own custom vintage. Now, they're opening urban wineries across the United States under the brand Water's Edge Wineries. If you've ever dreamed of owning your own winery, it may be in reach right now through Water's Edge Wineries. Just give them a call at 909-468-9463, extension 700. That's Water's Edge Wineries, 909-468-9463. Have you ever found yourself caught between a rock and a hard place? The law offices of Blomberg, Benson & Garrett might be just the answer for you. The attorneys of Blomberg, Benson & Garrett have been serving the Inland Empire since 1989. They're dedicated to the aggressive litigation of civil, criminal, and real estate matters. Over the years, they have recovered tens of millions of dollars for their clients. The firm's practice specializes in litigation of personal injury, accident, slip and fall, real estate, and criminal law cases. The firm provides clients with the care, accuracy, and dedication of experienced attorneys. Blomberg, Benson & Garrett is located at 10300 4th Street, Suite 150 in Rancho Cucamonga, California. They've been providing the Inland Empire residents with outstanding legal services for over 25 years. They look forward to providing you with aggressive legal representation. Call them at 909-945-5000, where you can talk to a person, not a machine. That's 909-945-5000, the law offices of Blomberg, Benson & Garrett. And now let's get back to our show where we talk about politics, money, and you.
And I am Robert Cardoza. You're listening to Robert Cardoza Live on the Street at the intersection of business and politics. We're talking to our own Sean LaFave in his Geared for Wellness Corner. We're talking about the human machine and how magnificent it really is. Sean, you got the microphone, buddy. We were talking about how the body just sort of reconstitutes itself if you put the right fuel in there and allow it to do its job.
Right, exactly. And so, when we went on break, we were talking about the difference between burning sugar for energy and burning fat for energy. And there's one thing that I need to clarify is, there are certainly good fats and bad fats, and there are good fats that we've turned into bad fats through one process or another. And so the fats that we can consider to be good fats are stuff like avocados, and you can even make avocado oil, which avocado oil is great because it doesn't have a real strong flavor. You can use it at a fairly high heat, unlike olive oil, which is a fantastic oil and really, really good for you. But if you cook it too hot, it actually turns it into a trans fat, so now it becomes a bad fat in your body. So olive oil, when you put it on your salad or you put it in your hummus or whatever you're making with it, olive oil is fantastic. It's super, super healthy. There's zero downside to eating olive oil. But if you cook with it, you have to cook it at a very low temperature. And I cook with it. I just don't get it hot. But what happens is, as soon as you see it start to smoke, it's turned and is now a trans fat.
Well, you know how I solved that problem, just a matter of information. I've learned that if and I love olive oil. I use it. I cook with that a lot. And in order to keep it from burning, I'll throw a pat of butter in it, and that butter seems to stabilize the olive oil so that you can get a higher heat on it.
Yeah, I do that too. And butter's another one too. It'll take a little bit higher heat. And especially when you're first cooking it, I actually like to throw the butter in at a low temperature and then slowly increase the heat. As the butter kind of like clarifies itself, it almost turns itself into a ghee, if you will. And ghee is it's an Indian term or Hindu term, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. Anyway, it's an Indian term for clarified butter, for reduced butter is ghee. You can buy ghee; it's just pure butter fat. But so it does hold a higher temperature. And yeah, I agree with you. I think it helps stabilize the olive oil, and I do the same thing. But butter's another one of those ones that is an absolutely good fat. It's and we were at that seminar that I was at in Utah. It was funny. There seemed to be a lot of talk about butter and the health benefits of butter, and there's a lot of us there that's our thing. We love putting butter on everything. It's just so
well. Butter makes dinner better if you use a lot of butter.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. No, I'm totally with you. I love lots of good butter.
Yeah.
And so, but if you cook with butter, again, you don't want to get it too hot because it will, if it turns brown, once butter turns brown, and it's easier to do when you first start cooking with it. Like if it stands too hot, you throw it in, all of a sudden, bam, it starts turning brown, then it's bad. It's no longer a good oil at that point. And so you've got to be careful with that. And some oils, like a lot of medical doctors will tell you, they'll say, like if you have cardiac problems or something like that, they'll say, stay away from coconut oil because it's got a lot of saturated fat. And it does have saturated fat, but it's actually a good quality fat. It's still a fat that you need. You absolutely have to have it, and coconut oil is one of the healthiest oils you can consume.
So why would doctors then be suggesting you stay away from it if nutritionally is one of the healthiest oils you can get?
Yeah. So what we've learned, through these studies, and they were really, I call them false studies. They were studies that gave us a conclusion that it was erroneous because there were some false premises behind it. But there were a lot of studies done that said, and of course, some of them were actually truly fictitious. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago, how the sugar industry actually created studies or paid companies to create studies that showed that fat was the problem and not the sugar. Remember, we talked about that
yes.
2 3 weeks ago. I think you even say that. So some of these studies were actually just 100% falsified. And what we know is, like they'll do studies on saturated fat, and they'll say, well, saturated fat is bad for you. Well, the problem is when they look at most saturated fats, they're looking at saturated fat from animals. Now, even that saturated fat is not bad for you. The problem is, as my friend J.J. Virgin says, you aren't what you eat, you are what you ate.
So we're still talking everything in moderation, right?
Well, yeah, no, not even everything in moderation. There's some things you can kind of go gangbusters on and have a good time, and saturated fat. The problem with let's take beef, for instance, mm-hmm. And chicken is really no different, but I'm just going to use beef because it's the easiest example because everybody in this country, it seems like, eats it nowadays, mm-hmm. and we eat too much of it. We really don't need so much, but people love to have a 1 pound steak, and I can eat 2 or 3 pounds of steak at a sitting, but there's no reason to. Yeah. But what
you're doing it because it tastes good, not because you're still hungry.
Exactly, it's exactly why. But we take a cow, which should just naturally, be free range and kind of wander around the pasture and eat the grass that's available to it. And then that's pretty much what its life is about. That's about it. Maybe it's got to run away from the coyotes once in a while. Mm-hmm. But really the cow doesn't have, doesn't have a varied diet. It's supposed to eat grass. Well, what we've done is we've pinned them up, and because they're living in such close quarters, they're more prone to disease. We give them antibiotics, and then we want them to grow bigger, to grow more meat, so we give them steroids, and we give them both bovine growth hormones, so they produce more milk, and on, and all these different things that we do to them, and then we feed them grain instead of grass. Now, grain, like take corn, for instance, that's the number one grain they use. You feed a cow corn. Corn is super high in omega-6s. Now, we need omega-6 in our diet, but we don't want too much, because omega-6 is pro-inflammatory, where omega-3 is anti-inflammatory. Now, grass is very low in omega-6. So cows needing omega-6, just like all other mammals, they've learned to pull what little bit of omega-6 is available in the grass. They've learned to pull it out really well. So their body is super efficient in ripping out omega-6 from whatever they eat and absorbing it. Well, now you give the cow corn, which is loaded with omega-6s, and they rip it out of there when they're eating it, and their body gets loaded with it. And so now a steak, when you look at the fat content, it should have omega-3s and it should have omega-6s, but the ratio should be about 2 to 1 when I'm talking omega-6s to omega-3s. So 2 to 1 at the tops, 4 to 1. Well, most steaks nowadays, most beef that you buy, because of what we've done with them and what we fed them, their ratio is about 20 to 1. So now there's not enough omega-3s to counteract the inflammatory response that you get from the omega-6s. So you eat this steak, and then also it's got antibiotics and it's got hormones and everything else in it. It's got the pesticides that have been sprayed on the corn instead of the nice, easy grass that doesn't need to be sprayed with anything. So now they also got pesticides, and all this stuff creates this state of inflammation. Well, inflammation leads to heart disease. And so they do this study, and they say, well, people who eat red meat, especially high fatty red meats, they have heart disease. And so they blame heart disease on saturated fats. Well, the fact is, it's not the saturated fat. It's what we did to the cow before it died, or before we killed it. And so that's where the big problem lies. And so coconut oil, we haven't done that to coconuts. Coconut oil has stayed the same. You can't feed coconut oil. I guess you could. You probably make some sort of a plant food that's poisonous and give it to them, but coconuts don't. they don't eat grains. So the coconut oil, the saturated fat, is still very healthy for you, and we need saturated fat in our diet. Our brain is primarily made up of saturated fat. It's made up of cholesterol. So is the lipid bilayer around that cell. Remember I talked about earlier how we have each individual cell gets inflamed. We have an inflammation problem, and as that inflammation goes down, the cell wall repairs itself, and so now we can hear insulin, we can hear other hormones. Well, it's that cell membrane that's what's causing the problem, and it's primarily made up of saturated fats and cholesterols. And so when you eat something that has trans fats or hydrogenated oils in it, those fats replace the saturated fat and the cholesterol that's supposed to be around our cell, and they don't do a very good job at maintaining a healthy cell. They let bad stuff in, they stop good stuff from getting out of the cell, and then that inflammation response just continues to get worse.
Sean, let me ask you something.
Yeah.
What is the difference between a holistic practitioner and a nutritionist? They're pretty similar, aren't they? They're pretty similar, huh?
Yeah. I mean, the philosophy, the base philosophy is going to be the same. But a nutritionist is someone who deals specifically with nutrition. Like if I tell most people I'm a nutritionist, which I'm not, but that's an actual school you go to study. But if I said I'm a nutritionist, most people would think, okay, you're going to teach me how to eat right. You're going to understand the benefits of eating broccoli versus the benefits of eating coconuts versus what meats do what, and the fat ratios and like the thing I just talked about.
Which is what you've been talking about, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of what I've been talking about. Whereas a holistic practitioner might be somebody who deals in herbs, where a nutritionist would really get into herbs, or they might deal with, homeopathy type treatment. So a holistic practitioner is maybe going to treat the body with something that would be considered what they call a natural modality. And maybe not necessarily use food, but the two tend to work well together, obviously, but they also tend to kind of cross into the the common areas a lot. So, yeah, and I don't even know if I even call myself a holistic practitioner. Officially I call myself a certified health coach, but I guess I could be considered a holistic practitioner. I try to be careful with the terms that I use because people get. They get. You
don't want to mislead anybody. Yeah.
I don't want anyone to think that I'm trying to step on their toes. Like there's even there's people in most places you could come out and say you coach people. You don't usually need to be certified to be a coach. And I know certified health coaches that if they hear someone say that I'm a health coach and you're not certified, they go, well, you're not really a certified health coach, so it doesn't count. Well, it does count because you can learn how to coach somebody and not get a certification in it. I mean, I could probably learn how to do brain surgery without going to school, but I would never call myself a brain surgeon. There's a lot of things out there that you can learn to do without going to school for them. So I try to be careful because I do help people with herbs, and there's also legality reasons behind that as well. You've got to be careful. Even chiropractors, who are. I mean, in fact, it's one of my favorite teachers. Is a guy who actually is he's an herbologist, and even he has to be careful because when you're using herbs or something like that, and you say, "Well, I'm going to treat your hypothyroidism with these herbs," the FDA has said, "No, you can't do that. You can give people herbs, you can recommend they take herbs, but you can't tell them it's for the treatment of a disease." The only people who can treat a disease are people who are medical doctors or DOs, people who are allowed to prescribe medications. But if you don't have the legal right to prescribe, then you can't actually treat a health condition. So I get people that come to me all the time and they'll say, I've got hypothyroidism, or I've got whatever, you name it. I've got cancer. I literally had a woman come up to me one time and said she was cancer. She called me, but told me she had cancer and she had parasites. She said, "I heard you could help." I'm like, "Yeah, I can, but how did you find out?" Because I never told. That's not something I ever talk about. But I can't legally come out and say, "Yes, if you have cancer, I can treat that for you. I can treat you for parasites, or I can treat you for an underactive, for diabetes or something like that, for an underactive pancreas." But I can do that. I know I can give them stuff that will help their body heal itself. That I can say, but I can't actually come out and say that I treat specific conditions. Mm-hmm. So anyway, let's. I don't know. How do we get off on that? We were talking about something.
Well, no, because you were really talking about trans fats, and you were talking about the different oils and nutritional type things in the foods that you eat and things like that. And all of a sudden, I started to think, gosh, it sounds so similar to being a nutritionist. And I guess in a lot of ways it is. It's not exactly, but in a lot of ways, I suppose it is.
Yeah, and very much so. There's a lot of common ground, and I think that if you want to be a natural healthcare practitioner, someone who is treating people or helping people or coaching people by natural means, I think that you need to understand how food works, or you're going to struggle, because that's the biggest thing that most people in this country need to change is the way they eat. And what they don't realize is the change that most people need to make are not drastic changes. It's not like, the person who goes to McDonald's every day, you got to stop going to McDonald's every day. I mean, there's some things I just don't try to sugarcoat. Mm-hmm. But if you go, gosh, like you and I have talked about, I love steak. Well, I love steak too. Yeah. If you're going to eat steak, it's best to eat grass-fed steak. Yeah. I didn't take anything away from you. Is grass-fed steak more expensive than the stuff that's corn-fed? Yep. A lot of people will say, well, corn-fed tastes much better. And I'm going, you probably have never tried a really good grass-fed, because I've eaten a lot of grass-fed steaks and they are fantastic. So and I will say the corn-fed steaks do tend to be higher in fat, but that's the reason why, because they're selling the cow by the pound, and if you feed it corn, it gets fatter. Fat, is just another way of adding weight to it. But they're still fat.
Well, the taste of meat, and that's why the most expensive meats that you can buy are what they refer to as marbled beef, and that is fat, and it's the fat that puts the flavor in the beef, and so and then it comes down to the person who's preparing that piece of meat. It's all going to taste pretty much the same doggone way if you don't put some kind of spices on it.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. There's not a lot of difference. I mean, you can take a Kansas City strip or a filet mignon, and if you have cut the fat off, you make it equal to a filet mignon. But beef tastes like beef. There's not a lot of difference in flavor. The amount of fat definitely changes the flavor. But yeah, you're right. It's how you cook it. It's if you use spices or whatever. But I mean, my favorite steak used to be for years, and I still love it, was a filet mignon, and it has no fat on it at all.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to know what you're doing to cook a fillet, because fillets have no taste. They're tender. No. They're tender, but they have no taste.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, fillets, and that's exactly a fillet and I think that's what I like about them is they're just a fillet that's done right. You do with some salt and pepper, maybe cooking a little bit of cream and some butter or whatever. But it doesn't take a lot to make it taste fantastic. But that texture, that smooth, it's almost like a marshmallow. It's so tender when you get a good one. Yeah, they're unbelievable. They're really, in my opinion, hard to beat.
Well, it's got to be the tenderest steak, on a side of beef. It's got to be the fillet, and we're not getting in there. But here, you know what? Let me ask you this question, totally non-related. Would you say that there are some conditions that the human machine gets that do require a medical doctor, a physician, or a surgeon? I mean, let me give you an example. Let's just say appendicitis. You don't have time for this thing to burst inside you.
Right. Yeah. Obviously, if you've got, like you said, type 1 diabetes, that's just one of those things that you can't fix. And for the vast majority of people, there's really no natural remedy for it. You're going to need insulin.
Yeah, cataract.
And so, yeah. What's that?
Cataracts.
Cataracts? Well, yeah, cataracts, once you've got them, you know, there comes a point, you know, you can nutritionally prevent those types of things, like cataracts and other aging, what they call aging diseases.
Yeah.
Yeah, once they set in, you know, you got to go in and get cataracts. Okay, look at my son. Perfect example. I'll use that one. You know, I don't know what caused him to have poor eyesight. I've got great eyesight. His mom has. I mean, I'm 47. I'm not far from 48, and I still have better than 20/20 vision. My vision is fantastic. It's always been fantastic, and I've got great vision, and I'm very fortunate, and I'm very, you know, I think lucky. But my son had terrible vision. It was like 2200 and something.
Oh my. Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. Well, you know, there was no way to fix that. Obviously, you know, you had to wear glasses or contacts, but we took him to the LASIK surgery doctor. I don't know what they call it. I'm sure they're. I mean, I don't know if they're an optometrist type or what.
You took him either to an optometrist or an ophthalmologist, one or the other.
Yeah, I can't remember if it was ophthalmologist or what. But I tell you what, you know, they did that surgery on his eyes, and it changed his life, man. I mean, it's unbelievable the difference. It made him and far for the good. It made him such a different person. It's unbelievable. And it was like $4,000 for that. So it was $2,000 an eye. And I wouldn't bat an eyelash. I'd sell my car and ride a bike to get him that surgery again if I had to.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it changed him that much. So yeah. And there are other conditions, you know, that you most of it, obviously, you know, emergency type stuff. You know, if I get hit by I'm walking down the street and a truck jumps the curb and slams into me, well, yeah, give me morphine or give me Dilaudid and cut me open and fix what's ever got to be fixed.
Oh yeah,
you know, broken bones, whatever. I mean, that's
you're not you're not arguing when you got broken bones and broken parts, right?
Yeah, exactly. But for most conditions, you know, I'd say that you know, you don't need a medical doctor, and then you know, for the things that we do need a medical doctor, most of the time it's for short run. But yeah, you know, type 1 diabetes. Obviously, if you have a child who has you know, who's born, say, with Down syndrome, you know, that's something that you know, that child's probably going to need medical attention for life.
Right.
You know, but there are certain things out there. But most of them, you know, I believe, this is what I believe, for most diseases, and I'm talking 98, 99% of them, there's a tipping point that when you get to a certain point, you can't come back. And maybe that's, you know, then you need medical treatment, whether it's surgery, like you say.
You just have to use good judgment, right?
Right. I can fix appendicitis up until it bursts. Well, once the appendix bursts, then yeah, you need a medical doctor.
Hey, Sean.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell happened, but we're 3 minutes over again. Hang on. I got to take a break, and then we'll come back, okay?
I'll wait right here.
All right. We'll be right back with our own Sean LaFave and his Geared for Wellness Corner. Don't go away, folks.
Isn't it time to shine the spotlight on your expertise? The Interview, starring you. Here's your chance to capture 5 minutes of fame with The Interview. This isn't just any interview. This is your opportunity to showcase your expertise and position yourself as a trusted expert in a one-on-one video interview hosted by Robert Cardoza, host of the nationally syndicated show Robert Cardoza Live and powered by AHA Studios. What is it? A professionally recorded video for your use. Robert Cardoza interviews you on the set where he records his show. Professional interview showcases your expertise and value, shot in a state-of-the-art studio. And what's in it for you? Gain credibility as an expert, earn the trust of your target market, educate in a way that intrigues your audience, gain a powerful marketing tool that offers dozens of uses, website, video sharing sites, social media, email, DVDs, direct mail, lobby video, resumes, profile building, all that kind of stuff. Association with the nationally syndicated celebrity. That's right. And let's talk about AHA Studios. AHA is a strategic marketing firm that leverages the powerful and visual persuasion to help your business create powerful messages that connect with your target market. AHA ventures way beyond strategy, delivering the marketing collateral you need to start driving a new business through your doors. AHA has a full-service, in-house, state-of-the-art production studio to bring your messages to life using video. Discover how to make the interview work for you. Call 949-831-2222. That's 949-831-2222. Aho Image Studios, Incorporated. Dr. Stephen Tidwell, Gentle Family Dentistry in a caring, personalized environment. Here at Dr. Tidwell's office, we are dedicated to helping you keep your teeth healthy. We are a state-of-the-art dental practice that still believes in traditional values, such as excellent customer service and individual attention. We have a special welcoming offer for you for just $39, a complete exam, personal consultation, professional cleaning, and all necessary x-rays. That's a $266 value for $39. Dr. Tidwell has 2 convenient locations and experienced staff to provide you with professional care and personal attention that you deserve. Call today. Don't delay. A great smile another day. Call 909-944-7308. That's 909-944-7308 for Rancho Cucamonga or San Bernardino. Joel Saltzman is Dr. Wireless. He has turned his considerable expertise into consumer credit risk and wireless security into a highly specialized independent web-based consulting enterprise targeting consumer credit risk analysis and wireless transactional security and monitoring. He works as a wireless analyst, veteran independent agent, and consumer liaison for most wireless telecom carriers and equipment manufacturers. For more than 20 years, corporate and private clients and media audiences have counted on his unvarnished advice while weighing the technology, performance, and cost differences between Sprint, Nextel, AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile. Joel specializes in setting up mobile wireless hotspots to be used for disaster preparedness, business continuity, and mobile wireless merchant processing solutions. Call Dr. Wireless at 310-400-4900 or go to his webpage at drwireless.com. Again, call 310-400-4900 or his webpage at drwireless.com. You'll be glad you did. And now, back to our show.
I am Robert Cardoza. You're listening to Robert Cardoza live on the street at the intersection of business and politics. Time to wake up. We're giving you good information here. We're with our own Sean LaFave in his Good for Wellness Corner, and we're talking about the human machine. Hey, Sean, you're back on.
All right. Last segment, I started off, I knew exactly where we had left off, and now all of a sudden, I'm trying to remember where we were.
Well, you know what? We were talking about, the necessity of sometimes actually needing to have a medical doctor. Because if you get hit by a truck or you have some kind of catastrophic issue going on, you know what? I mean, you got to use good judgment when you're making these decisions. It's, if you've got some time to work on these things in a natural way, then I think that certainly your first approach should be that. But boy, I'll tell you what, if you've run out of time because you've ignored it or something, some emergency has arrived, but it's time for you to get to a medical doctor.
Yeah, and I think that's the key, is that the vast majority of health conditions out there today are lifestyle conditions. They're things that we've thought on ourselves with the way we live. And, once we better understand that, I've had this argument with friends that believe, we need to do more to bring healthcare into, the repressed areas of the country, like the poor areas where, you don't have access to healthcare and on and on. And I said, the problem is that they don't have access to healthcare. The problem is they don't have access to grocery stores. And of course I get massive kickback. People argue with me so much, and I said, well, if stop subsidizing healthcare, subsidize vegetables. And the problem is, unfortunately, is you get people who live in economically repressed areas, and I'm talking, it doesn't matter if it's the black area of Chicago or the white area of Appalachia. The fact is they want McDonald's for breakfast or for dinner, and so they don't have the grocery stores like I do. I got beautiful grocery stores all around me, bunch of them. I can get anything I want. I couldn't find, funny enough, and most people will probably go, why would you even try? But I went to 2 pavilions here, of all stores, and they didn't have beef liver. They have chicken liver, but not beef liver.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yeah, I know, right? I was like, well, it's liver. Neither one of them came. One was like one was a regular pavilion, one was the super big pavilions, and neither one of them carried it. I thought, that's crazy, But, and look at me, I'm all like depressed because I can't get liver. And there's people who They can't even get decent anything.
Yeah.
The problem is in a lot of these areas, people don't buy the groceries. They don't the fresh produce, and they'll go out and they'll get a box of macaroni and cheese, or they get other things like that. But they're not going to go spend a lot of money on vegetables and nice cuts of meat. And they don't have it, but they don't want it either.
You make a really good, valid point, and it is it would be surprising to a lot of people to know that there are a large number of people that never cook at home. They go out for all of their meals. They just don't cook.
Yeah.
Or they order stuff to be delivered.
Yeah, or they order stuff to be delivered, or they drive through, get it at the drive-through window.
Yeah.
And even what I would call not fast food restaurants, and I don't want to say nice restaurants, but like stuff that we wouldn't think of as fast food, like Chili's or TGI Fridays, or even like the Italian Garden or whatever, or the Olive Garden, or stuff like that. All their food is still highly processed. It's still not good for you.
Yeah. They're not cooking from scratch. They're that's not accurate. What I'm trying to say is they're not using GMO-free products to do to cook their stuff. They're using highly processed elements to make their menus.
Right. Yeah. You go to pretty much almost any Mexican restaurant, the corn chips you're eating are GMO. They're cooking their food. I've got some pretty nice restaurants here, and they'll tell you, we cook in canola oil. Which I think canola oil is just not. That's another. We were talking about good fats and bad fats. Mm-hmm. A lot of people, we've been brainwashed to believe that canola oil is a good oil, and in fact, it's not. It's one that our body it's not structurally made similar to the oils that naturally occur in the foods that we would eat, from Mother Nature. Mm-hmm. And so our body doesn't process it very well. And actually, canola oil is not a good oil at all. It's a harmful oil.
So canola oil is made from corn, is it not?
No, it's made from corn oil. Is made from corn. Canola oil is made from a seed called the rape seed.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, then the analogy I was going to draw is a bad one. I was thinking in terms of I've always heard that corn is difficult for your body to digest, even though it tastes wonderful. It's hard for your body to digest. And I was going to try and relate that to canola oil. I was under a perception that canola oil was made from corn.
No, corn oil is from corn. Yeah. It's from the rapeseed, which is a pretty good name because it really rapes your body of a lot of nutrition. It's part of the body. Yeah, corn. That's another problem with corn. Unless you're, Native American, and I mean North America, Central America, South America, the Aztec or whatever, you probably don't produce the enzymes to digest corn. I know some Asians do too, I believe. But I know when I eat corn, I love corn. Oh my gosh,
corn me too. Yeah.
With butter and salt. Oh, geez, it's like heaven. But I do. I poop out, yellow polka dots the next day.
Yep.
It doesn't digest in my body. It doesn't work. But I'm still going to eat it every now and then because I really, really like corn on the cob.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's just a lot of things that we've learned, unfortunately, that it's, and of course the food industry is, think of all the money in the food industry, and they're going to throw out their commercials, and they're going to advertise this and advertise that. And, I remember the commercials for, I think it was high fructose corn syrup, and like this gal, she offers her boyfriend a icicle or something like that. He goes, "I can't believe you would do this to me. This has high fructose corn syrup." And she goes, "Oh, it's made from corn, so it's healthy for you." And of course she's like, "Oh, really? Wow, that's amazing!" And then they're enjoying their icicle together. But it's not. And that's what kills me is that for them to say that it's okay to eat is such false advertising. But because there's so much money in it, they can get away. They can.
So to bring my analogy back, if I had said corn oil, if corn is hard for your body to digest, corn oil must be difficult as well. Then, right?
Oh yeah, corn oil is definitely hard for your body to digest. Yeah, corn oil again, it's harder to digest. It's not, as they say, bioavailable. It's not a healthy oil that's going to make your body run the way it should. And again, it's going to be higher in omega 6s, so it's going to. Hey,
I gotta tell you, I'm 71 years old. My body doesn't want to run at all. It'll walk, But it doesn't want to run. I'm no longer in that big a hurry anymore.
I can't remember what I saw a cartoon or something that said, says diabetes doesn't run in your family. Nobody runs in your family. That's the problem. You know?
Yeah. You know, I used to tell people that I pee like a basketball player. I dribble all over the place.
Man, I could go into that. I've heard a whole bunch of them. I mean, what was it? I won't do it. My uncle taught me a little rhyme about that.
That was as distasteful a joke as I want to get on the air here.
I was going to say mine was going to take it to the next level, so I won't go there. But you learn. Okay, I'll tell you this. I went hunting when I was in my 20s with my dad and two of my uncles, right? Mm-hmm. And you know, of course, you're driving out in the middle of the wilderness, and we're in our 4-wheel drive truck, and it's wintertime, and there's snow everywhere. And like, man, we got to stop and take a potty break. This is a true story, by the way. We got to stop and go to the bathroom. So we get out, and I just stand next to the truck and pee into the snow there. And they kind of all run over and grab a little tree and go to the bathroom. And they come back, and there next to the truck in yellow letters is my name, Sean. and my uncle looks over and he goes, "You wrote your name in the snow?" I'm like, and I was thinking, I was trying to be funny. I was just like bored. I'm like, I'll do that. And he's like, "Man, must be nice to be so young and everything worked away." And I'm like, what is he talking about? Yeah, now that I'm almost 48, I know what he's talking about.
Well, you know, I
don't even write high in the snow anymore.
Yeah, when I first went to school, I thought I wanted to be a pharmacist, so I was taking a tremendous amount of chemistry, quant and qual, and all kinds of chemistry. And one of the most fascinating things that we did was to make different hormones. And what we determined, the easiest way to make a hormone is just not to pay her. You knew what? I know you know. That's old. I know you knew it was coming.
I know that one, but it still makes me laugh every time. It's true. Just don't pay her. I've actually had someone use that at a. It was a funny thing. It was at a seminar, and most of the doctors and practitioners there didn't even know. They hadn't even heard it before. And he goes, because he did a whole lecture. This guy did a whole lecture to all this room full of doctors, and he said, and it was all about hormones, you know, and all the different hormones in the body, hormone receptors. And he goes, you know, the easiest way to make hormone, and there was all these blank stares, and I go, yeah, don't pay her. And it was like, it was like the whole room busted out into laughter because they were like, oh my God, I can't believe they didn't see that.
See, now you got to know you were talking to a group that had a sheltered education, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, what's wrong with you people? You're doctors. You can know this. But,
well, my friend, we've got 1 minute.
I don't know how we got 1 more minute. So we digressed kind of far, but you know what? Since we got a minute, I'm going to use it to talk about what we're going to talk about on Tuesday.
You know?
I know.
Well, because if you don't know, nobody knows.
I arranged for us to have a special guest appear on our show with us.
Oh, Sarika going to be with us?
Nope.
Oh.
You got the first 2 letters right.
Oh.
So you asked the question, I don't know, it was about a month or 2 ago. Mm-hmm. We were talking, and I can't remember what it was we were talking about, but you said, I just don't understand why women stay in a relationship.
Oh, yes.
And I said, you know what? I could come up with some answers for that one, but I know someone who's highly qualified to answer that. And she finally said to me yesterday or the day before, no, it was Tuesday night after our show. She said, you know what? I think it's Sexual Abuse Awareness Month. And she goes, I'm going to go ahead and I want to be on your show, and we're going to talk about that topic that you and Robert were talking about. So that's going to be Sally Fry. So Sally is she's got her master's degree in family therapy and counseling, and she actually her area of specialty is in dealing with women who have been in abusive situations. And so she's very passionate about it. So I have to be extremely careful not to make sarcastic comments at all. I think you're allowed to get away with them. We had this discussion. she goes, I said, Robert's not going to be any easier on you than I am. She goes, I can take it from Robert. She goes, I just don't want to hear it from you.
Well, you know what? I'm really excited. I think that's going to be fantastic. I'm looking forward to it. And then let's you and I touch bases so that I can give you the right information so we can all be on the air together.
Yeah. I'll get everything, and her and I are going to talk. And what we'll do is we'll probably send you some information, kind of like some highlights that she wants to make sure we touch on. That way, you'll kind of be prepared, and you can have all the questions you want to ask her. But I think it'll be a fun show. You'll have a good time with it, and she's got a great sense of humor, so you can joke with her just like you do with me. Sounds
terrific. Hey, my friend, have a wonderful weekend. Stay safe. Make everybody around you happy and glad that you're home, even though you're going to be leaving again in a few weeks. But other than that, make everybody happy that you're around, will you?
Yep, same to you, Robert. Thanks. I had a fantastic time today.
All right. And the rest of you folks, stick around, because when we come back, we're going to be talking about the birthdays for the day, the secret daily teaching for your life, the Harvard business tip of the day, and interesting but useless facts. And then followed up right after that, we're going to do our tribute to the late, great Paul Harvey and the rest of the story. And the story today is hands down, and you're not going to want to miss this. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
If you want to increase your client base and sales, then consider this, the Relationship Building Network at RBN. Given the current economic conditions and challenges, we all need to work smarter, make smarter decisions, invest our hard-earned dollars where it'll yield the best return for our investment. Many business professionals claim that the most effective networking group in Orange County is RBN. No other networking group or organization can offer what RBN offers. Make every year your best year. Join RBN and start reaping the benefits today. You know, nearly 3,000 businesses have joined RBN and experienced those benefits. Why join RBN? It's one group. It's one membership. It's no renewals. It's all through Orange County. RBN is a freestyle networking group. No mandatory attendance, no restrictions, no rules, and no penalties. Call them at 949-830-5776 or go to their website at rbninfo.com. That's 949-830-5776. If you've ever dreamed of having your own business to make your life secure, you know Water's Edge Wineries might be just the ticket. In 2004, their founder, Ken Lineberger, created the first winery franchise in California. It was a new concept with all of the functionality of a traditional winery, but without the vineyards. They purchased high-quality grape must from one of the largest winemaking companies in the world. Then they craft each wine carefully and bottle it right at their location. The winery was built to satisfy consumer demand for wine by the bottle and by the glass, but still kept the element of allowing customers to bottle their own custom vintage. Now, they're opening urban wineries across the United States under the brand Water's Edge Wineries. If you've ever dreamed of owning your own winery, it may be in reach right now through Water's Edge Wineries. Just give them a call at 909-468-9463, extension 700. That's Water's Edge Wineries, 909-468-9463. Have you ever found yourself caught between a rock and a hard place? The law offices of Blomberg, Benson, and Garrett might be just the answer for you. The attorneys of Blomberg, Benson, and Garrett have been serving the Inland Empire since 1989. They're dedicated to the aggressive litigation of civil, criminal, and real estate matters. Over the years, they have recovered tens of millions of dollars for their clients. The firm's practice specializes in litigation of personal injury, accident, slip and fall, real estate, and criminal law cases. The firm provides clients with the care, accuracy, and dedication of experienced attorneys. Blomberg, Benson, and Garrett is located at 10300 4th Street, Suite 150 in Rancho Cucamonga, California. They've been providing the Inland Empire residents with outstanding legal services for over 25 years. They look forward to providing you with aggressive legal representation. Call them at 909-945-5000, where you can talk to a person, not a machine. That's 909-945-5000, the law offices of Blomberg, Benson, and Garrett. And now let's get back to our show where we talk about politics, money, and you.
And I am am Robert Cardoza. You're listening to Robert Cardoza Live on the Street at the intersection of business and politics. We're at 4:42 p.m. Pacific time. Hey, it's 81 degrees here in the heart of the Inland Empire in sunny Southern California. Well, that's on its way to 56 degrees. And if you're listening to us on our globally syndicated network and you're in London, England, well, it's 54 degrees and it's mostly cloudy. And if you're in Vienna, Austria, it's 48 degrees and mostly cloudy. And if you're in either one of those places, you are one lucky son of a gun. Well, you know what? It's time for our Harvard business tip of the day. And the management tip today is to work less. Rethink how you spend your time. Yeah. You know what? You want to work less, but you can't imagine how, especially since you feel like you're already behind. Begin by deciding how much you want to work. Set a target range of hours, for example, 45 to 50 hours per week, and use that number as a stopping point. If choosing a weekly range is overwhelming, start small by focusing on an incremental goal, like leaving 15 minutes earlier each day. Then, determine the task that you need to accomplish on a weekly and daily basis within this schedule to feel comfortable ending your workday on time. If you find that you're still working late, identify what's hindering you. Too many meetings? Interruptions? Not enough resources. Address the specific problem that's holding you back. At first, these changes to your schedule will likely feel very uncomfortable, but after a few weeks, you'll become less emotionally resistant to the reduced hours. Matter of fact, you'll find something to fill those hours with that'll be really enjoyable. I promise you. That's exactly what you want to do. Well, you know what? It's time for our secret daily teaching for your life. It's all about a positive mental attitude. I'm going to repeat myself like I do every day. Your life is really up to you. You decide if you're going to be happy or sad, rich or poor, a success or a failure. You decide every morning when you get up, you look in the mirror and you say, wow, I'm going to have a fantastic, profitable, productive day today. And I'm going to make everybody around me happy, and that's going to make me happy too. Well, you know what? Our teaching for today is to create the life of your dreams. The time has come for you to love you. Focus on your joy. Do all the things that make you feel good. Love you inside and out. Everything will change in your life when you change the inside of you. Allow the universe to give you every good thing that you deserve by being a magnet to them all. To be a magnet for every single thing you deserve, you must be a magnet of love. Yeah, there's a secret for you. Well, you know what today is. Sure you do. Today is Thursday, October the 13th, and it is somebody's birthday. Oh, yeah, and we've got some terrific birthdays today, so you know what? We might as well just get right to them. Let's start off with this fella. He was born in 1947, a rock singer, guitarist, composer, and solo artist. He was one of the three singers for Van Halen. Happy birthday, Sammy Hagar. Yeah. And born in 1971, an English actor, comedian, and writer, most noted for his comic characters, Ali G, Bharat Sagdiyev, and Bruno. Happy birthday, Sacha Baron Cohen. And then finally, born in 1980, a singer who rose to fame and is most famous for her Grammy Award-winning debut album. Happy birthday, Ashanti. Yeah. Well, what happened today in history? Have no fear. I'm going to tell you. Right now, on October the 13th, 1884, Greenwich is established as universal time median of longitude, and that happened on October the 13th, 1884. And in 1958, Michael Bond publishes the first story on Paddington Bear. And then finally, in 1960, the 1960 World Series, Pittsburgh Pirates second baseman Bill Mazersky becomes the very first person to end a World Series with a home run as the Pirates beat the New York Yankees 4-3. It's interesting. I can actually remember that game. Boy, am I aging myself. Well, you know what? The quote for today comes from Lao Tzu, and Lao Tzu says, "Oh, be worn out is to be renewed." Yeah, well, I'm not sure. Yeah, probably so. I guess. You know what? Anyway, it's time for our interesting but useless facts. We've got a number of them, so let's get to them. You know, the average housewife walks 10 miles a day around the house doing chores. She walks 4 miles and spends 25 hours a year making beds. Just beds. Can you imagine that? Yeah. Well, did you know that the San Diego Zoo in California has the largest collection of animals in the world? Yeah. The world's largest zoo. And how about this? There are more than 15,000 different kinds of rice. Yeah. Well, you know what? I like Asmani rice. I like white rice. I like arborio rice. Yeah, and then I like the derivatives of it. How about this? Do you know what? If the sun stopped shining suddenly, it would take 8 minutes for people on Earth to be aware of the fact, because of the time that it takes that light to get from the sun to the Earth. And how about this? The world's first singing commercial aired on the radio on Christmas Eve, 1926, for Wheaties cereal. The 4 male singers, eventually known as the Wheaties Quartet, sang the jingle. And with that, we're going to take one short break. When we come back, we're going to do our tribute to the late, great Paul Harvey and the rest of the story. So, folks, don't go away. You don't want to miss this.
Isn't it time to shine the spotlight on your expertise? The Interview, starring you. Here's your chance to capture 5 minutes of fame with The Interview. This isn't just any interview. This is your opportunity to showcase your expertise and position yourself as a trusted expert in a one-on-one video interview hosted by Robert Cardoza, host of the nationally syndicated show Robert Cardoza Live and powered by AHA Studios. What is it? A professionally recorded video for your use. Robert Cardoza interviews you on the set where he records his show. Professional interview showcases your expertise and value, shot in a state-of-the-art studio. And what's in it for you? Gain credibility as an expert, earn the trust of your target market, educate in a way that intrigues your audience, gain a powerful marketing tool that offers dozens of uses, website, video sharing sites, social media, email, DVDs, direct mail, lobby video, resumes, profile building, all that kind of stuff. Association with the nationally syndicated celebrity. That's right. And let's talk about AHA Studios. AHA is a strategic marketing firm that leverages the powerful and visual persuasion to help your business create powerful messages that connect with your target market. AHA ventures way beyond strategy, delivering the marketing collateral you need to start driving a new business through your doors. AHA has a full-service, in-house, state-of-the-art production studio to bring your messages to life using video. Discover how to make The Interview work for you. Call 949-831-2222. That's 949-831-2222. AHA Image Studios Incorporated. Dr. Stephen Tidwell, Gentle Family Dentistry in a caring, personalized environment. Here at Dr. Tidwell's office, we are dedicated to helping you keep your teeth healthy. We are a state-of-the-art dental practice that still believes in traditional values, such as excellent customer service and individual attention. We have a special welcoming offer for you for just $39, a complete exam, personal consultation, professional cleaning, and all necessary x-rays. That's a $266 value for $39. Dr. Tidwell has 2 convenient locations and experienced staff to provide you with professional care and personal attention that you deserve. Call today. Don't delay. A great smile another day. Call 909-944-7308. That's 909-944-7308 for Rancho Cucamonga or San Bernardino. Joel Saltzman is Dr. Wireless. He has turned his considerable expertise into consumer credit risk and wireless security into a highly specialized independent web-based consulting enterprise targeting consumer credit risk analysis and wireless transactional security and monitoring. He works as a wireless analyst, veteran independent agent, and consumer liaison for most wireless telecom carriers and equipment manufacturers. For more than 20 years, corporate and private clients and media audiences have counted on his unvarnished advice while weighing the technology, performance, and cost differences between Sprint, Nextel, AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile. Joel specializes in setting up mobile wireless hotspots to be used for disaster preparedness, business continuity, and mobile wireless merchant processing solutions. Call Dr. Wireless at 310-400 4900, or go to his webpage at drwireless.com. Again, call 310-400-4900 or his webpage at drwireless.com. You'll be glad you did. And now, back to our show.
And I am Robert Cardoza. You're listening to Robert Cardoza Live on the Street at the intersection of business and politics. And it is time for our tribute to the late, great Paul Harvey. Yes, sir. You know what? Paul Harvey, and the rest of the story was just, you know what? He was just phenomenal. He's the biggest and best voice in America, reveals the startling heartbeats behind the headlines. Paul Harvey, one of America's favorite radio and TV commentators, heard on over 775 ABC radio stations and over 400 foreign stations. He was seen on 110 television stations and read in 300 newspapers. He was the recipient of numerous awards and honors, including 9 honorary degrees. He was on the Gallup Polls list of America's most admired men. Boy, if you never got a chance to listen or see Paul Harvey, did you ever miss something? You might just want to Google it out for yourself. Well, today's story, hands down, I'll bet you never knew that composer Beethoven visited Louisiana. If you didn't, don't feel badly. Neither did Beethoven. In fact, it was a more circuitous route by which Beethoven's heart and soul reached Dixie, a kind of unbroken lineage, you might say, a lineage of pianists and composers. Consider this. Beethoven's star pupil was a young man named Cernsey. Now, unimpressive looking, but impressively gifted. Now, Cernsey, known as the father of scales, practiced them a lot, perhaps preoccupied himself with them. But he was Beethoven's favorite. Now, Cernsey had a rather famous pupil, Franz Liszt. Now, you know him. He took Cernsey's scales and crammed his own compositions full of them. Lots of romantic flourish from all those dull exercises. Anyway, among Liszt's brilliant students was Arthur Friedheim, who returned to New York and taught a young girl named O'Brien, that's Rildia B. O'Brien, who went to Shreveport, Louisiana. And if all this sounds a bit anticlimactic, or if you think the glowing age of the great Beethoven dead ended in a humid, magnolia-laden little hamlet, you'd better know the rest of the story. There's no trick to this Friedheim's pupil name. The real Rilda B. O'Brien, and she never so much as entertained the notion of changing it for professional purposes. No, Rilda B. O'Brien, it's hard to say, by the way, was not to change her name until the day she married a petroleum company landman. Neither was she to become a renowned concert musician, for her parents did not want that sort of life for their daughter. Instead, she would become a suburban piano teacher in Shreveport, Louisiana, resting at the end of a long, winding road that led back to Beethoven himself. Or what appeared to be the end, anyway. 11 years of marriage, no children, husband Harvey and his petroleum company to attend to, and Rilda B., her afternoon piano pupils, neighborhood school children. But most important of all, Rilda B. and Harvey had each other. They would not need children of their own to cement their happy marriage, but as so frequently happens in the lives of those who do not require a special favor, the favor came anyway. After 11 years of marriage, Harvey and Rilda B. became 3. Harvey had practically to knock over nurses, batter down doors to see his child born. No one's going to keep me from being with my wife at a time like this, and no one did. It was a boy, Harvey Jr., and Rilda B. never allowed her teaching schedule to conflict with her first obligation as a mother. Lessons were spaced so that they would not interfere with the baby's nap time. When anything was done, the family would do it together. When anything was to be enjoyed, a trip to the movies or a car ride in the country, the family would enjoy it together. So it was in the atmosphere of warmth and love and togetherness that young Harvey grew up. He was in many ways a very normal child. Mommy, he once said, I think I'd like to be a taxi driver when I grow up. And Mommy smiled. He saw Gone with the Wind, his favorite film, nearly a dozen times before satisfying himself that he'd taken it all in. The drama of it was fascinating to the young boy, and he had a playhouse in his backyard, the neighborhood children to play with, and a little girlfriend who lived down the street. He was in very many ways a very normal child. But one day, as a mere toddler, he overheard an across-the-fence conversation between his mother and the lady next door. No, said the lady, I don't think we'll ever have children. We've tried all these years, but now the doctor says it's impossible. Perhaps she knew that Rilda B. herself, 11 years childless in marriage, would have a sympathetic word to offer. But before such a word could be spoken, a tiny voice from behind the backyard fence chimed in. Oh, yes, it was young Harvey, pressing his pudgy face against the wire mesh. Oh, yes, you'll have lots of children. I can see them right over there. Pointing to thin air in the neighbor lady's yard, I can see them. They're 5 little stair steps. The lady's eyes grew wide. Quickly, she spun around to see what Harvey was pointing at. There were only a tree and a lawn and nothing more. The neighbor lady looked down at Harvey, smiling. That's sweet of you, dear. Thank you. But why would you need all those children when I have such a nice little boy right next door? Well, but you'll have them, really you will, assured Harvey. I can see them. And the incident was forgotten. Months passed, and the lady next door became pregnant at last. To the amazement of the doctors, she had her child, and another the following year, and another after that, until the 5 little steps. 5 children in a row materialized out of the hopelessness and were playing in the next door neighbor's backyard, just as Harvey had seen them. Now, if this was a remarkable coincidence, the coincidences would not stop there. To this day, Harvey's close friends remember the midnight long-distance phone calls. I'm sorry to bother you at this hour, but I was lying awake in bed, and I got this picture. He called them pictures. You were in the study, sitting on a big upholstered chair I didn't recognize, and the friend would have just come from the study where he'd been sitting on a newly purchased chair to answer the phone, and you were wearing a sort of blue-green shirt. The friend would be wearing a turquoise pullover, and you were very sad. It never failed. The friend would confess his depression, and they'd talk about it, or joke about it, until both felt better and could retire in a good night's sleep. And Harvey was never impressed with his gift of this. After all, it had always been with him. His pleasure was in using it to help others. If a degree of psychic ability is, as some say, an important facet to even greater talents, then it is true of Harvey. For there is another chapter in the story of this otherwise very normal youngster. It was one afternoon when Harvey was 3 that his promising piano pupil had visited their home. Teacher Rilda B. congratulated her student on a fine rendition of Crawford's Arpeggio Waltz, told him he'd certainly earned a gold star for committing to memory this somewhat advanced piece of age of 15, and adorned the lesson. Rilda B. later, in the kitchen, overheard her pupil back in the keyboard again, playing the Arpeggio Waltz. She glanced at the clock and went to the kitchen door and called out to the young lad that his mother might be getting anxious, that it was time to go home now. But the music continued uninterrupted. Thanking her pupil, had not heard Rilda B. open the door in the living room to discover not her secondary student but the keyboard. It was not the considerable accomplishment of a 15-year-old boy she was hearing. There was a piano playing, or having had no lessons in his life, but playing by ear, was 3-year-old Harvey. I guess the tears that welled up in the teacher's eyes that afternoon were mixed with pride and reservation. None knew better than she what a monumental career might wait for the pianist to accomplish at the age of 3, and yet the dedication and discipline and inevitable sacrifice that it would require. There was no turning back now. There was a pianist in the family, and under her guidance that boy grew to match, then surpass, the artistry of his gifted mother. The days became years, the minuet became Rachmaninoff, and the pudgy little boy grew lean and tall at the keyboard. After a bout with typhoid and the board-straight hair grew thick and curly, soon the tiny hands became huge, powerful, sensitive. And one day, when he was ready, there was an international competition in Moscow, and Harvey would win hands down. You know the rest, or at least you should, that the winding path from Beethoven to the Bayous would not end there. And though Harvey was a young lad of two distinct gifts, the world remembers one. He was christened Harvey Levin Chilburn Jr., but since the day he was born, his parents called him Van. Yeah. And now you know the rest of the story.
That's our show for today. Beginning today, everyone believes that they were going to be dead by midnight. Extend them all the care, kindness, and understanding that you can muster. Your life will never be the same again. So many of our dreams at first seem impossible, then they seem improbable, and then when we summon the will, they soon become inevitable. You know, the real secret of happiness is to make others believe that they're the cause of it. Robert Cardoza Live is brought to you by blogtalkradio.com every Monday through Friday from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Now, go out and make it a great day. Your host has been Robert Cardoza, the technical advisor, Matchstick Digital, and your executive producer, also Robert Cardoza.